the parties who's involved in any disputes or business disputes. So there are two kinds of arbitration, as a matter of fact. I will start my presentation. I have only 30 minutes. I want to be quick for this, and later on let's start with and continue with the question and answer or Q&A. Apa ini?
Atau saya aja dulu.
So, I'm spoiled. Saya suruh neken nggak bisa ya. Sudah biasa dilayani. So, I'm spoiled. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is inevitable, I think, that there is a possibility, always a dispute among business actors. I think it's worldwide, it's international, that there will be a potential disputes among businessmen. On the contrary, what business actors need now is a dispute resolution method in which it has a confidential nature, very flexible, hearing, and also proceedings, quick, and provides a win-win solution. So that is what is expected usually among business actors or the business community. So, in fact, maybe you are conversant with the court proceedings. I don't know if the audience is conversant with this. If you are a lawyer, then you are always familiar with the court proceeding. If not, then I will start the discussion about commercial arbitration, in which it has benefits, plus and minus, compared to the proceeding in the court of law. So, the state court is always preferable at this moment among Indonesian businessmen, as a matter of fact. Unlike in international countries, like industrial countries, commercial arbitration is a preferable dispute resolution, or arbitration is preferable for them, compared to what the businessman in Indonesia is preferring or doing, how to dispute their disagreements, let's say. There are advantages and disadvantages, of course. Court proceedings versus arbitration. The procedural law of the general court has been known and applied for a long time. Almost every person in Indonesia or businessman knows about this, that if you have a claim in the court of law, you go to the civil court and file your claim over there, and it will end up in 3 stages, like usual: Pengadilan Negeri, Pengadilan Tinggi, and then Mahkamah Agung. In the commercial arbitration, there's only one final decision of the court or the arbitration institution, or ad hoc arbitration. So it's final. Usually it is only 6 months, unless the parties agrees to extend it for some reasons. Okay. Therefore, many practitioners are more familiar with this. Lawyers in Indonesia are very much equipped for the hukum acara or the civil proceedings of this, but not arbitration proceedings. It is considered as new, and Bani itself was founded around, when is it, Bani? 82? Do you remember? I think it's 82. Do you remember? 77? Oh yeah.
Just before the war.
Yeah. This is our Ketua Bani. So 77, right?
The real Bani.
The real Bani.
The only Bani.
The only Bani. Okay. So ADR, or arbitration, in fact, means a dispute resolution that is conducted out of court with the help of an independent and impartial third party. So the third party is called jury or arbitrators, and they are considered as people appointed by the parties. One is by the claimant and the other is by the respondent. And the two arbitrators will appoint a chair, all right? This is considered also impartial and independent in making their award or decisions. Look, I have quoted Gary Bowen, which is a well-known international arbitrator in Singapore or worldwide. He said that with some incidental variations, virtually all authorities would accept that arbitration is a process by which parties consensually submit a dispute to a non-governmental decision maker selected by or for the parties to render a binding decisions to resolve a dispute in accordance with neutral adjudicatory procedures, affording the parties an opportunity to be heard. So the parties will be heard accordingly by the arbitrators, by the tribunal we call it, and they must get an ample time to present their case usually, yeah, and this is all the proceedings will depend very much on the negotiation between the parties, how much time they need to present their case, what kind of event they want, are they willing to have the proceedings or the hearing in a hotel or in a building or in an arbitration building, yeah, like Bani, for instance, yeah. And according to the law of Indonesia, arbitration shall mean a mechanism of settling civil disputes outside the general courts based upon an arbitration agreement entered into writing by the disputing parties. So every arbitration has to be covered by a clause which is agreed upon by the parties. The parties who claim or the parties who is being claimed by the other side. Okay? So there must be an agreement. So this agreement is on top of every normal agreement. So an arbitration can only be resumed if there is an agreement between the parties. Talking about the difference between commercial arbitration and court proceedings. If you look in Article 3 of the Indonesian Arbitration Law, Undang-Undang Arbitration, then you will see here that the district court shall have no jurisdiction at all to try disputes between parties bound by an arbitration agreement. So once the party has an agreement, how they want to solve the disputes or differences in an arbitration institution or even in ad hoc arbitration, the court has no jurisdiction to arbitrate the case. So in many cases, lawyers are saying, since the agreement is, for instance, not made between the parties, the case can be processed or let's say in the court of law. But in fact, it should be arranged in an agreement. So without an agreement, the parties cannot go to an arbitration institution, for instance, and appoint arbitrators. I would like to discuss later also on the principles of arbitration, since the parties has the right to appoint an arbitrator on their own choice, okay, so they have the freedom to choose whatever arbitrators is available in Bali or in other institutions like SIA, in Hong Kong, in London, and so forth. The parties are free to determine the procedures of the arbitration, such as venue, like I said, the language of the agreement, the arbitrator to be appointed by the parties, rules of the arbitration, and so forth. They can freely choose the Bali rules or arbitration rules. They are also free to use the SIAC arbitration rules as well as the UNCAC, United Nations arbitration. So the parties are free to determine in an explicit written agreement that the arbitration procedures to be applied in a hearing of the dispute is provided does not conflict with the provision of this Act. So it should be conformed with the provision of the Act. That means here is the Undang-Undang Arbitrasi Indonesia. Yeah. I will also discuss about Article 10 of the Indonesian Arbitration Law, in which an arbitration agreement shall not become null and void under any of the following circumstances. The arbitration proceedings. 3 is novation, 4 is the insolvency of the parties, inheritance, and effectiveness of the requirements, and the implementation of the agreements is transferred to one or more of the parties. So the agreement or the cause of arbitration will continue. So I hesitate if I have to discuss about this matter. If there is a challenge, for instance, in any arbitration, and said that the court is has the authority to let's say to make decisions on the dispute of two parties in dispute, the institution which has the right to make a decision whether they are having any jurisdiction of the arbitration of the proceeding is the arbitration institution itself, and this is called as competence. So if there is a challenge, let's say in a court of law, that the arbitration has no jurisdiction to make decisions of any disputes, and which the parties has already selected an arbitration institution to handle or to solve the case, then the arbitration institution has the right to determine whether they have the rights or they have the jurisdiction or not. Yeah, and no court has jurisdiction to annul the decision of the award. So this is a very important article in Article 6.5 of the ICC rules. So if there is a challenge, then the arbitration institution can always decide whether they have jurisdiction or not to arbitrate the case. Article 3 of the arbitration law, no. I think I have touched this. I don't want to repeat this. That the district court shall have no jurisdiction to try disputes between parties bound by an arbitration agreement. That means once the parties has agreed and decided to bring their case to an arbitration institution, then the court has no jurisdiction. Okay? You know, in many cases there are always challenges, especially from lawyers, which I consider which they are not equipped with knowledge about arbitration. They always challenge that the case can be brought in the court of law. In fact, they cannot do that because of the parties' autonomy I mentioned just now. So if there is such a decision of the parties, and this is considered as the highest parties to decide it together that they want their case to be brought to the arbitration institution and not the court of law. So this is considered as competence principles. The plus and minus comparisons between arbitration and court decision, I think I should discuss with you that if the decision of the court should always be final and binding and enforceable, unlike the court of law, there's only final decision and there's no appeal or cancellation. So there's no chance for the parties to appeal on every decision or award by the arbitration institution. There's always a recognition of arbitral awards, domestically here and also outside. I mean, abroad, it is a convenient rights, and also the neutrality of the court or the arbitration is always being honored, let's say. So the choice of language, let's say, of the rules and also of the agreement is being admitted with the flexibility of possible, like I said, the choice of event, language, and so forth. And most of all, it's also the confidentiality of the proceedings and the decision of the court, or let's say the decision of the arbitration, is also being honored, and should not be covered or by the press. It should always be kept confidential. And the advantages of arbitration also that they are faster and less expensive than the court proceedings.
Saya sendiri sudah pernah membaca putusan arbitrase, terutama dari ICC yang dulunya ada yang majelisnya diputar oleh Ibu Karmits. Itu bagus sekali kok. Argumentasinya, penjelasannya, wah itu kayak setara dengan putusan hakim di Amerika atau di Belanda sana. Masalahnya tuh waktu saya tadi pagi baca bisnis Indonesia, itu ada perkara yang mencoba untuk membatalkan putusan arbitrase tadi. Jadi perkara bumi gas lawan di energi atau apa itu.
Ya betul.
Nah ini sebenarnya kan kalau arbitrasinya sendiri sudah bagus, cuma karena harus di-enforce dengan putusan pengadilan Indonesia, itu jadinya bagi kita ini agak meragukan, nggak yakin terhadap efektivitas dari arbitrasi itu sendiri. Nah, pertanyaan kami adalah bagaimana apa yang dilakukan oleh ICC dalam men-training atau menjelaskan kepada hakim-hakim Indonesia ini arbitrase, supaya hakim Indonesia itu bisa memiliki pengetahuan yang mumpuni.
Ya.
Kan kita di Indonesia ini kan nggak ada hakim-hakim lagi seperti Asikin Kusumatmaja,
Ya.
nggak ada kayak Pak Hussein di Lotulung gitu.
Ya.
Malah saya baca di koran itu ada hakim Indonesia, Profesor Gayus Lumbun bilang kalau perjanjian antara Indonesia dan orang asing nggak pakai bahasa Indonesia harus batal. Nah, itu kan saya sudah tanya Profesor Abdul Hakam itu nggak pernah ada peraturan seperti itu atau ketentuan seperti itu. Kalau orang sama-sama ngerti bahasa Inggris, ada suatu kesepakatan para pihak kok dibatalkan itu urusannya apa? Misalnya oleh hakim Indonesia.
Kalau saya mau tanya silakan.
Iya. Jadi pertanyaannya adalah apa yang dilakukan ICC selama ini untuk meyakinkan pada korps hakim Indonesia atau Mahkamah Agung bahwa putusan arbitrase ini hanya bisa dibatalkan oleh ini dan tidak boleh dibatalkan dengan alasan-alasan yang sebenarnya bisa dikatakan memeriksa meritnya lagi. Terima kasih Pak.
Baik, saya kira saya mulai jawaban saya dengan singkat aja dulu ya Pak ya. Seperti presentasi saya yang tadi, tolong Pak Andi tolong tunjukkan pasal berapa tadi? Pasal 3 atau pasal berapa? Jadi sekali partai otonomi yang saya bilang itu, para pihak sudah setuju, sepakat untuk di arbitration, apakah itu Bani, Sia, atau yang ad hoc juga, menunjuk orangnya, itu arbitrator, dan menunjuk arbitratornya di institusi tadi, saya kira pengadilan negeri sudah tidak punya jurisdiksi lagi, itu istilahnya. Apa tadi hukum kan?
Iya.
Belajar hukum ya, syukur lah. Pasal berapa ini 3 ya? The district court shall have no jurisdiction, Pak. Jelas ini bahasa Inggrisnya. Seperti Ibu Karen barangkali sudah juga jelaskan, gitu kan? Walaupun saya hanya sepintas saja, tapi yang prinsip-prinsip saya sudah itu. Dan undang-undang kita, walaupun undang-undang kita terus terang aja ya, masih belum mumpuni semuanya kalau dibandingkan dengan kebiasaan international arbitration itu masih kurang kita. Tapi paling tidak ini sudah diatur. Bound by the arbitration agreement. Sebab yang tadi saya bilang tadi partai otonomi Pak, kalau saya sudah sebutkan bahwa setiap orang itu yang secara bebas, free itu menunjuk arbitrator dan dia punya kebebasan untuk menunjuk siapa aja si X, Y, Z untuk jadi arbitrator dan pihak lainnya juga dan masing-masing arbiter milih chairman itu sudah dipenuhi itu semuanya proceedings ya semuanya baik venue, language, arbitrators rules dan ini sudah dipenuhi tapi mereka oleh karena itu tidak boleh dicampuri oleh pengadilan untuk dibatalkan baik dibatalkan putusannya maupun dibatalkan segala aturan main yang sudah disepakati bersama. Berapa jam sidangnya, saksinya masing-masing berapa jam, itu sudah disepakati biasanya di antara arbitrator dengan si partisnya. Nah, partai otonomi itu yang saya bilang tadi, dia sudah tidak bisa dicampuri lagi oleh siapapun, termasuk oleh negara. Karena ini hak privasi, hak sipil dari orang, tidak boleh. Karena ini bukan hukum pidana. Sehingga putusan-putusannya tidak ada hubungan dengan negara. Tapi yang saya bilang tadi bahwa arbitrasi itu ditunjuk oleh kalangan sipil ya untuk mengadili perselisihan mereka. Kurang lebih gitu loh intinya. Jadi menurut saya ini tidak bisa lagi. Karena dibilang the parties are free to determine in an explicit written agreement untuk arbitration, apapun arbitrationnya, Bani Cake, Sia Cake atau ICC. The arbitration procedures juga ditentukan oleh para pihak to be applied. Misal mau sidangnya di hotel atau di gunung Sia, di jam tepat, gitu kan. Ada hearing dari dispute, provided this does not conflict with the provision of this act. Selama aturan main ini tidak bertentangan dengan undang-undang arbitrasi kita, berarti sudah. Ya. Jadi menurut saya tadi tidak bisa ya itu kan. Mengenai pertanyaan mengenai hakim kita belum terlatih, tadi saya sudah bilang bahwa para lawyer di Indonesia kebanyakan tidak well equipped untuk ke proceedings arbitration. Mereka lebih kepada hukum acara perdata dan Terus terang saja banyak para arbiter masih pegang hukum acara perdata kita itu Hayer, Herzin, Inlands, Reglement ya, gitu kan. Berdasarkan itu, yang menurut saya tidak compatible atau tidak memenuhi syarat untuk menjadi rules untuk arbitration gitu. Karena perkembangan internasional sudah tidak mengenal itu lagi gitu. Developing country, China is not a developed country, as a matter of fact ya. Yeah. But at this moment, at least, let's ask our ketua Bani here. I think they have asked for a decision, and there was a decision by the Supreme Court that the old Bani is the one which is considered as legal. Am I correct, Pak?
So should we write a Bani Mampa version? Or?
Yes, the Mampa version. And not the sovereign version. Yeah. Both are my friends, you know.
Yeah.
But this is the court decision. We have to obey.
It become a discussion, but we want to make agreement with the local bank or local parties, and we choose Bani as the body of arbitration, but we should define which Bani.
Yeah.
This becomes a problem, sir.
Yeah.
There's a review court decision of the 8 May 2018 that there's only one Bani.
Okay, thank you.
Although there's a split now, there are challenges against the old Bani or the Mampang Bani decision, and the decision or the award of the Bani sovereign decision or award. There's always two challenges. Let's see which one won and lose the cases. I just asked my friend here, have you received any challenge in the court of law on either side, Bani sovereign or Bani? He has not answered my question.
The market is confused.
Masaya,
Market is
the
confused.
market is confused.
And market wants certainty. It's not about
It's
having.
already certain.
Yeah.
Mahkamah Agung already decide on the 8th of May. There's only Bani, Badan
Yang Petun,
Arbitrase
Pak.
Nasional Indonesia.
That's a Petun case or the civil case?
Yes, the Petun case.
But there's still a civil case, right?
But Mahkamah Agung is about the perkumpulan berbadan hukum Bani. It is not accepted by the Mahkamah Agung.
I think that's what the market wants to hear, and it's having a certainty of the local arbitrations, right? It's not about the institutions. At the end of the day, we resolve the dispute, we choose one institution to have certainty. If at the end of the day, we choose one institution but it ends up to have multiple litigations anymore, then there's no point of having arbitrations, whatever the ban or whatever, right? So that's the point.
Let's keep this question there. Not for today. For
Can I suggest that we do the other questions later on,
Yes.
at the end of the session?
We'll do the Q&A.
Okay.
We'll do a full Q&A of all the three speakers, I think.
Okay. We will join the Q&A from the next two speakers as well.
Yeah.
So that to make this
More lively.
presentation lively. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whose turn is it now?
Tapi sebelum saya bahas lebih lanjut, ada yang tahu nggak pernah no ICC arbitrations? Ada yang tahu nggak? Ada yang pernah menjalaninya nggak? Berperkara di ICC? Atau mungkin tahu apa sih ICC arbitration gitu? Ada yang tidak tahu barangkali. That's the starting point. Nah, ICC arbitration itu basically itu sama kayak kalau di Indonesia itu namanya Bani. Bani, cuma ini yang institusi asing namanya ICC, ICC arbitrations. Tentunya pertanyaannya adalah kalau kita mau beracara, mau bersengketa di ICC, dan ini ada institusi asing, pusatnya ada di Paris, ada punya beberapa kantor, ada this year they just established an office di Singapura, ada di Hong Kong juga. Pertanyaan pertama pasti tentunya kalau kita ada perkara di ICC terus kita harus ke Paris, harus ke Paris kan? bisa di Jakarta juga. Jadi kalaupun ada perkara di ICC itu bisa diselesaikan di Jakarta. Ya kan? Nah kalau diselesaikan di Jakarta terus di mana? Kantornya di mana? Di kantornya Bu Lucy? Di mana? ICC itu institusi. Setahu saya kantor Bu Lucy nggak ada tempat sidang.
Hotel.
Ya. Jadi di hotel pun bisa. Di hotel pun bisa. Nothing fancy, nothing extraordinary. Biasanya tuh yang mengurus itu adalah arbiternya. Jadi kemarin kita teman saya jadi arbiter di satu kasus ICC. Artinya kita sewa hotel, kita rent hotel room, tempat sidang. Nah biasanya kalau yang di banyak arbitration kan biasa ada yang atau di pengadilan ada yang namanya panitra atau sekretaris yang mencatat. Kalau di ICC siapa yang jadi sekretarisnya atau panitra? Bisa arbiter, dan arbiter juga akan ngurusin semua. Jadi sebenarnya in a way untuk kasus seperti Indonesia, a lot of times arbiter yang ngurus semua, ya kan? Tentunya infrastrukturnya semua itu nanti diserahkan pada pihak karena no such thing like freelance, right? Jadi kalau misalnya kita mau melakukan fasilitas XYZ, we have to pay for it, right? Jadi seperti itu, nothing extraordinary buat ICC. Seperti kenapa saya bilang nothing extraordinary, karena selama ini saya berdiskusi dengan klien-klien, ada yang berpikiran bahwa wah kalau pakai ICC ini susah nih karena institusi lembaga arbitrase asing. Nah, jadi gimana kita berperkara? Apakah kita harus ke Paris, kita harus gimana? Jadi ada ketakutan seperti itu. Ya. Tapi pada dasarnya menurut saya itu simply karena nggak tahu aja gitu. Simply karena nggak tahu. Tapi pada dasarnya ya prosesnya sangat mirroring like other arbitration institution juga sebenarnya. Nah kemudian beda dengan Bani, mungkin Bani ada listnya, ada ada individu-individu yang dipandang bahwa ini adalah orang-orang yang sudah ahlinya. Jadi in a way Bani sudah menyiapkan listnya, ya kan? Jadi orang tidak perlu repot-repot lagi. Tapi kalau ICC ada harus cari sendiri arbiternya siapa, dan biasanya arbiternya itu bisa macam-macam. Bisa ada lawyer Anda, misalnya lawyer Anda itu udah tahu ini arbiter yang saya mau itu siapa. Bisa misalnya Pak Rusdiono, Pak Theodor Bakar, Pak Frans Yunarta, itu juga bisa jadi arbiter. Jadi nothing extraordinary buat ICC. Nah saya bisa go through the proses beracaranya, but I think bakal agak membosankan bicara soal prosedural. Jadi mungkin saya bahas statistik aja. Ada slide statistik aja, karena kalau proses beracara saya pikir this is not your job, gitu kan? This is your lawyer job. Jadi yang lawyer Anda yang akan beracara, dia tahu hukum proseduralnya dan segala macam. Tapi if you guys have any questions on this, just feel free to raise your hand. Happy to discuss. Tapi menurut saya mungkin lebih nyata, lebih bisa relate kalau kita lihat statistik di ICC arbitration. Nah ini angka tahun 2017. Ini ICC secara global. Ini saya dapatnya dari Bu Lucy. Ini breakdown of parties by the region. Jadi kalau dilihat ICC ini by the way ini secara internasional ya. Jadi di seluruh dunia, dan harus diakui memang mereka tuh untuk Eropa dan Amerika dia very strong ya. Tapi untuk Asia sepertinya kurang. Kayaknya lebih didominasi sama di Hong Kong, HQ apa namanya? Hong Kong Arbitration, ya betul, itu sama SIC. Nah sekarang ada IAC di KL, I think dia coba untuk compete dengan SIC. Itu dulu namanya KL, ya betul, itu di Kuala Lumpur. Mereka baru sekarang try to improve their visibility in the market, try to compete dengan SIC di Singapura. Tapi so far saya bisa bilang untuk Indonesia SIC very dominant, right? Untuk itu, saya pikir rata-rata corporate lawyer juga when they choose a dispute resolution forum, they will choose SIC. Ya kan? Yang kedua tentunya untuk domestik, obviously Bani, the only choice, ya kan? Tapi untuk yang internasional ya, untuk SIC, ICC dan yang lain. Nah, untuk yang ICC, kalau dilihat di Asia mereka kurang cuma 14% statistiknya dari jumlah total perkara arbitrase. Yang besar itu sebenarnya di Eropa sama di US. Nah, ini ada most frequent nationality amongst the parties. Jadi kalau bisa dilihat peringkat pertama US, terus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 besar pertama itu semuanya dari negara Eropa dan US. 7 baru Cina. Kuesionya Indonesia ke berapa nih? Indonesia ada nggak? Oh ini. Claimants 6. Jadi total ada berapa perkara tuh? Ada 10 perkara. Ada 10 perkara tahun 2017 at the time. Jadi quite a decent number I think. Tapi obviously compared to the Bani nggak ada apa-apanya Pak ya. Harus dulu.
Singapore only 23.
Yeah, Singapore only 23. Jadi kelihatan di sini ya, ICC itu sebut di Asia kurang gitu kurang gitu populer.
Itu forumnya gimana?
Hah?
Itu forumnya gimana?
Ini forumnya kayaknya campur-campur. Kalau di slide berikutnya tuh ada forumnya di Indonesia, kalau nggak salah ada 2. Sisanya di other jurisdictions. Ya. Jadi yang seat of arbitration-nya cuma ada 2 di Indonesia. Nah, kenapa itu bisa terjadi? Menurut saya simply karena market is not aware of that. Right? Saya bicara dengan teman-teman yang di ICCA, Indonesia Corporate Counsel Associations, memang pengetahuan soal ICC itu sangat dikit, dan mereka taunya SIC siap, padahal in a way ICC is punya features yang comparable juga dengan SIC gitu kan. The risk of their arbitrations, they also efficient gitu kan. Pricing mereka juga nggak mahal-mahal gimana juga gitu kan. Jadi sebenarnya ini is one of the options. Nah, kalau by arbitrators, jadi arbitrators-nya breakdown by the arbitrators ini bagaimana? Nah, kelihatan lagi di sini, sepertinya ini koresponden dengan partisnya juga. Waktu itu kan partisnya yang paling banyak dari Eropa. Di sini juga bisa lihat arbitratornya dominasinya adalah Eropa juga ya, North and West Europe. Untuk Asia cuma 9,5, sangat kecil. Yang jadi arbiter Indonesia so far di tahun 2017 ada 4 Indonesian nasional, salah satunya saya tahu Pak Frans. Nah, ini breakdown by place and region. Kembali lagi dilihat yang didominasi sama Eropa. Nah, Indonesia place of arbitration cuma ada 2 so far tahun 2017 Bu ya. Ada 2 di Indonesia. Jadi seat of arbitration-nya ada 2. Dari 10 perkara, seat-nya 2 di Indonesia. Nah, ini amounts of dispute juga, ini average-nya. Nah, ada kecenderungan juga kalau menurut saya ketika memilih Foreign Arbitration Center, ada kecenderungan melihat bahwa kalau Foreign Arbitration Center, if it is less than $5 million dispute, it's not worth it to the Foreign Arbitration Center karena harganya terlalu mahal. Jadi bagusan kita pergi ke domestic. There may be merits behind that, tapi kalau dilihat di sini pun sebenarnya dilihat Misalnya dari angka berapa ini? Less than 5 million. Ini lumayan banyak ini sebenarnya. Lumayan banyak. Jadi seperti itu. Misalnya untuk yang besar berapa ini misalnya? Dari 500.000 sampai $1 juta itu sekitar 10% dari jumlah amount of dispute. Jadi it's actually one of the option untuk memilih ICC arbitration yang belum dieksplor. Gimana Pak?
Kalau terkait kasus WTO yang Amerika untuk kasus WTO itu Pak, yang kita baca di media massa bahwa Amerika memenangkan tuntutan di WTO total 6 triliun terkait pembatasan impor. Apakah negara ini juga masuk arbitrase atau proses seperti apa?
Ya kan kita kan ada, ya ini mungkin sebenarnya saya mau bahasnya itu setelah Q&A setelah session Pak Theodore Becker, jadi Pak Theodore Becker bisa ngobrol juga, tapi nggak apa-apa saya jawab sedikit Pak ya. Memang kita ada undang-undang perbandaran negara, di mana aset negara itu tidak bisa disita, ya kan ada ketentuan undang-undang seperti itu, proteksi kepada asetnya negara, ya kan. Tapi obviously our law is only as strong within Indonesia. Ketika dibawa ke kancah internasional, ketika misalnya ada ekspropriasi dari oleh negara terhadap investor asing, ya, kita boleh punya undang-undang perbandaran negara, tapi tentunya ketika negara punya aset di luar negeri, belum tentu mereka akan menghormati undang-undang perbandaran negara Indonesia. Ya, jadi unless kita mau mengisolasikan diri kita seperti Korea Utara ya, tapi kalau kita mau go to international, I think obviously we love our country, we want to protect our country, tapi mesti to certain extent juga berani gitu kan. Kalau memang tidak berani melakukan itu, ya berani menghadapi tuntutan hukum gitu kan. Jangan berani melakukan tapi tidak berani menghadapi tuntutan hukum gitu. Jadi menurut saya ya memang ada undang-undangnya, tapi ketika dibawa ke kancah internasional pasti akan jadi satu perdebatan ya. Seperti kasusnya Karabodas kan juga seperti itu. Karabodas menang, mereka tidak melakukan eksekusi di Indonesia, tapi melakukan eksekusinya di luar negeri.
Good afternoon, dear friends. I could try to speak Bahasa Indonesia, but it's going to take a long time. So I suggest that I just do my thing in English. But I do understand a bit of Bahasa Indonesia, so if you want to discuss with me things or you have questions and you feel reluctant to do that in English, please feel free to do it in Bahasa Indonesia, and I would actually enjoy that. I'm going to talk to you about a bit more technical matter than Pa Frans and Pa Andy, and it's perhaps a bit of a peculiar choice because it isn't very useful and used yet in Indonesia. Nevertheless, I'm going to talk about third-party funding because it has such a large application outside of Indonesia, both in Western Europe, in North America, but also nearer to home in Singapore and Hong Kong. So it is something which I think will come to Indonesia before too long. Another reason why I think it is important for Indonesian lawyers to know the basics of third-party funding is that you may actually have clients who will be sued by foreign companies, foreign contract parties, under a contract that has an arbitration clause in it. And your company may not be in a position, financially or otherwise, to fund that itself. And in those cases, even as a respondent in arbitration, you can search for third-party funding. Now, before we move ahead, let me go through some basics with you. And I should push this, and then we get the first one. Third-party funding is commonly referred to by its acronym TPF. It occurs when someone who is not involved in the arbitration proceedings provides funds to a party in exchange for an agreed return. TPF providers will typically undertake to pay the funded party's lawyers, their fees and disbursements and other expenses, but it also may extend to a commitment to pay the respondent's costs if the funded party is ordered to do so. Often the funder will also provide security for the respondent's cost if the tribunal so orders. TPF is relatively new, and the use of TPF has increased, and the range and sophistication of the products available in the market has very much broadened over the last 5 years. Initially, TPF was applied primarily in investor-state arbitration, which occurs when an investor in one country sues the state in which he has invested. But since a couple of years, it quickly spread into commercial international arbitration, which is arbitration between two private parties, regardless what the relationship is. It's been suggested that the increase over the last few years really was fueled by the economic downturn in 2008, 10 years ago, the Asian financial crisis. And many corporations and investors then experienced economic instability and were unable to proceed with meritorious claims due to simply reduced cash flow, and they didn't have the money to pursue. And that's when the investors saw their chance, because at the same time investors, outside investors, were seeking alternative capital outlets where returns on their investment would not be correlated to the traditional markets, but would have their own return on investment. They were both prepared to do one-off cases, but also increasingly this became an industry, and whole portfolios of court cases were actually funded by third-party funders. Now, undoubtedly, TPF brings benefits, and let me go over a few of them. It permits greater access to justice for claimants, permitting meritorious claims to proceed that would otherwise not be proceeded with. It's also said that the level playing field is achieved so that cases which would not be resolved on the basis of unequal economic resources would now be able to be adjudicated in arbitration. Even for claimants with sufficient funds, TPF is increasingly used to take the costs of litigation of arbitration off the balance sheet of a company, or to outsource these costs and financial risk. It is a way to deviate the entire risk of a potentially substantive case out of your balance sheet. And effectively, it allows you to go on with your business while the arbitration is going on and being funded outside of your own company. TPF is, however, subject to some prerequisites. You can't just bring every claim to third-party funding. First, funders are reluctant to provide funding for cases that do not involve a damages claim, because it's out of the damages claim, if it gets awarded, that the third-party funders get their piece of the action, get their cake. And therefore funding is mostly given to claimants, or also sometimes to respondents with a counterclaim. The second prerequisite that must be met is that funders seek a certain, what I call, investment to quantum ratio. You can't just go for every single small amount to third-party funders, because their investment is very risky and their return on investment is accordingly needs to be of substance. Successful enforcement at the end of the day is a key risk concern, because effectively the third-party funder takes over the risk that the claim that you have as a claimant is being awarded, but not only that, but you can also get it actually enforced in the country where the respondent is situated, and where the assets of the respondent are. And finally, the seat of the arbitration will determine whether TPF is allowed, because some jurisdictions don't allow TPF yet. And the place of enforcement is the factor and is relevant in connection with public policy issues that may arise in respect of the enforcement. Because the place of enforcement is always the place where an arbitral award can be challenged in the courts, if that is possible. Now, on the part of the claimant, if you are considering third-party funding, there are a few concerns that you should have. First of all, the funder that you are looking at, that you are selecting, should have sufficient capital to run the entire race. He must be prepared to start at day one, not halfway stop his funding, because that's not what you're after. Secondly, packaging the claim, what we call making it completely ready for starting of the TPF, is both expensive and it is time consuming. Finally, there's three more concerns. Successful claimants pay a significant part of the proceeds to funders. That's the base piece of the action that funders look for.
What's the average percentage?
Well, we've seen a range that you normally see 30 to 50%, sometimes even more, 60%. It depends, of course, on the risk of the case. Of farmers who claim that they have damage because the groundwater was lowered by some water companies. And there we are now negotiating a percentage which is much lower than the 30 to 50% that I mentioned here, because we think, and I'm acting for the funder, we think that that case is fairly strong. And mind you, you're not only waiting for the final arbitral award, because often these cases get settled halfway. And that's where the interesting thing comes, because then the third-party funder will actually sit on the table. Because, of course, he has put the money on the table which allowed the procedure to start in the first place. So many of these cases will not actually go to the final arbitral award stage. Okay, there are some dogmatic issues which lawyers see in the framework of third-party funding, and which have also been recognized in academic writings and even in court cases. That is the conflict of interest issue. There are relationships between funders and the law firms that engage in international arbitration that bring up a concern of a conflict of interest. And this is especially so where you have repeat appointments of the same arbitrator by the same funder. You can actually ask yourself whether that arbitrator, even if he thinks that he is independent and can be totally independent, whether there is not at least an apparition of conflict of interest. A second issue concerns disclosure. Should not the fact that one party is being funded be disclosed to the other party? And should not indeed the arbitral tribunal know that? These are issues that are not yet completely crystallized. There is no hard and fast rule whether that is the case. But I give you that because it is something that's being considered. A third issue lies in the allocation of costs and security for costs. And in particular, the question whether a party that is funded should be considered impecunious, i.e. should be considered as not really having the financial strength that he would otherwise have. And whether a funded party should be able to recover their funding costs. Finally, a debate has arisen whether or not the funder can be ordered to pay costs himself, not as a party, but as a funder, because he's so closely related to the arbitral case that he is in fact an informal party. Where are we? Yeah. If you want to read further on these issues, I give you some very interesting websites where these issues of conflict of interest are very widely discussed, and they will give you all of the parameters and considerations that have been formulated so far. Another issue that is not so much an Indonesian issue, I don't think, but I'm not an Indonesian lawyer, so you might correct me, but it has placed a role in especially common law jurisdictions. Let me see where I am. No, I'm too far. No, I'm right here. It's the common law doctrine of the prohibition of maintenance and champerty. Now, maintenance is defined as the intermeddling of a third party to a suit in which they have no connection, by maintaining or assisting either party with money or otherwise in order to prosecute or defend it. Champerty is a notion in English that is very near to that. It's defined as a form of maintenance, and of course when a person receives, as consideration for the maintenance, proceeds from the successful litigation. According to the common law doctrines, both maintenance and champerty were classified as criminal and tortious, thereby criminalizing TPF and rendering unenforceable any agreements, including TPF. During the 20th century, most common law jurisdictions actually abandoned that view in order to give rise to TPF. And one example is Hong Kong, which was very late actually in decriminalizing these offenses. Singapore did the same thing, and I'll go over the way in which that was in practice was implemented. There are several publications that deal with some or all of these issues that I've just given to you. Again, I would recommend that you visit those pages if you are interested in the background. As we speak in the region, where am I? No. In the region, only two jurisdictions that we spoke about earlier regulate TPF in international commercial arbitration, and those are Singapore and Hong Kong. Singapore is somewhat peculiar in that it has legalized TPF through its Civil Law Act, but opted to ordain the relevant disclosure rules, and there in Singapore you must disclose the existence of third-party funding. It's put those in its legal professional rules, so it's actually not a prohibition not to publish on the party, but it's a prohibition on the part of the handling lawyer, which is quite unusual because Hong Kong hasn't done that. And these legal professional rules in Singapore now also clarify that lawyers may introduce or refer funds to their clients as long as they don't receive direct financial benefit. Now, which is better, the Hong Kong system or the Singapore system? I think the jury is still out there. And Hong Kong's advantage is that the obligation is directly imposed on the parties and therefore easier enforced by an arbitral tribunal. And you don't have to go through the loop of the professional rules of the lawyer. Okay, let's look at Indonesia. TPF is not explicitly prohibited in Indonesia. However, TPF is not yet common practice here for a number of reasons. The first reason is, as I mentioned, that the investor must have a reasonable amount of certainty that if the case that he invested in can actually be enforced. Because that's where the money is, in enforcement. So that has two elements to it. First of all, the party against whom it is enforceable, or should be enforceable, has enough funds, and the legal system is such that you can actually get at those funds by way of a conservateur beslag or by way of some other sort of enforcement in the courts. and whether the arbitral tribunal itself, the arbitral award itself is actually enforceable. And here, of course, Indonesia is now having a proper record. Now you see many arbitral awards being enforced, but it hasn't always been so. And that has been the reason why it's taken so long in Indonesia for third-party funding to get on the way. And still, we talk to funders that say, Indonesia, well, let's wait a few years before we take a risk on this country. Okay, I think I should stop here because then we have some more time for questions and answers for all three of us. But I thought I'd give you the main playing points of third-party funding. If you have more questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Thanks very much.
Pengalaman saya ini Pak ya, saya bandingkan nasional dengan internasional dulu ya Pak ya. Kalau kita mau lihat ICC Pak, yang saya lihat Pak, integritas itu nomor satu Pak. Ya, ada beberapa insiden dalam negeri, saya nggak sebutkan organisasinya dan orangnya, yaitu walaupun dia ini profesor hukum bisnis lagi, tapi kalau dia tidak bisa menjaga, tidak ketemu dengan salah satu pihak, itu tidak boleh Pak. Itu salah satu yang dinafikan atau diharamkan lah istilahnya sekarang Pak. Gak boleh Pak. Itu saya lihat di Singapura tuh, itu bersih Pak. Jangankan itu Pak, lawyer untuk ngomong tidak sopan saja nggak bisa Pak di sana Pak. Lawyer di sini tuh Pak mendesak Pak, mau menjadikan para pihak tuh kayak tersangka, terdakwa gitu Pak. Nggak boleh Pak. Di dalam arbitration itu commercial arbitration itu nggak ada kayak gitu-gituan Pak. Menyudutkan gitu loh, nggak bisa Pak. Itu jadi kalau saya lihat begitu, banyak putusannya itu simple, tidak banyak cincong, tapi to the point Pak. Kita ini banyak putar-putar Pak. Saya pernah itu beberapa putusan-putusan di Belanda tuh simple sekali Pak. Misalnya orang mengasuransikan rumah, ya ternyata dia mengasuransikannya dianggap dia itu mengasuransikan untuk ditinggal sambil dijual gitu Pak. Tapi ternyata dia ini diposongkan rumahnya lalu ditawarkan Pak, tidak di-cover oleh asuransi Pak. Simple aja Pak. Jadi intinya arbiter itu memutus di Belanda itu karena dia itu mengasuransikan dengan ditinggal dan bisa ditawarkan, dipasarkan gitu sekian bulan. Tapi ternyata dia kosongkan Pak dan terbakar Pak. Tidak di-cover sama sekali. Itu contoh bagaimana mereka simple, tidak banyak cincong Pak. Soal adil dan tidak adil, sering kan disita katanya nggak ada keadilan kalau bukan di surga. Wah, itu agak repot Pak kalau seorang hakim atau seorang arbiter bicara begitu Pak. Mestinya ada sense of justice dong Pak sebagai itu. Kalau nggak jangan ke situ Pak. Ini saya ingat dengan guru besar saya, Profesor Sudiman, ketika tahun 60-an saya belajar masuk ke kelas hukum 3. Buat dia itu seseorang misalnya yang dia kenal, dia masuk fakultas hukum dan dia mau jadi jaksa, dia bilang sebaiknya jangan, karena saya tahu karakter you terlalu soft untuk jadi jaksa. Jadi hakim itu belum tentu tega gitu loh. Jadi dia bilang jangan salah masuk, dia bilang mendingan you jadi banker aja atau jadi apa. Sorry Pak. Jadi ada satu kualifikasi kalau menurut saya ya, yang diperlukan Pak. Nah kembali lagi Pak, tadi saya bicara lawyer kita tidak ikut, ya hakim kita juga tidak ikut Pak. Jadi lebih senang kalau diputus dengan pengadilan, dia bilang lebih afdol gitu. Dan saya kira attitude ini mesti dirubah Pak. Dari kita yang non negara kepada yang negara, dari yang negara ke non negara, belum dibiasakan orang-orang kita Pak. Sehingga kita untuk memasarkan arbitrasi itu susah sangat nanti Pak. Jadi saya maklum kalau Bapak cuma baru punya satu perkara Pak, setelah 2 tahun ini. Begitu pun nasibnya kalau nggak salah BAPMI itu Pak. Apa tuh BAPMI itu pasar modal ya? Itu juga begitu. Kontroversial lagi putusannya.
Ada orang BAPMI nggak sini Pak?
Gak apa-apa ya. pernah diputus
Ada pengurusnya.
yang mestinya ada tiga tribunal, ada 3 arbiternya menjadi 1 Pak. Mana boleh Pak? Itu kan partai otonomi tadi saya bilang kan sudah ditentukan Pak akan ada 3 arbitrator. Ditentukan 1 kan mana boleh Pak? Itu betul-betul sepihak gitu loh. Ya gitu loh. Kenapa? Barangkali teruskan aja ya. Kurang lebih menurut saya integrity Pak paling penting.
Nah kalau menurut saya gini Pak, kalau misalnya mau meningkatkan kualitas arbiter kita atau calon arbiter, saya pikir banyak lembaga-lembaga terakreditasi internasional yang melatih calon-calon arbiter. Misalnya ada SIAP, mereka itu ada kursus untuk melatih para calon arbiter, dan ada tingkatannya dari NCAP terus ke FCAP dan segala macam, dan itu bisa diakses online, semuanya ada. Cuma memang susah untuk ngikutin kursus tersebut, can be quite mahal juga gitu kan. Dan kemarin tuh kalau nggak salah yang ikut itu mungkin ada 30 orang gitu kan, yang lulus cuma 1-2 orang itu salah satunya.
Dan lulus?
Itu satu Pak. Yang kedua, kalau saya lihat benchmark kita lihatnya jangan di
Chartered Institute Pak.
Chartered Institute.
Chartered Institute, UK. Itu salah satu lulusannya itu. Baju hitam. Gak tahu ini juga mudah, berarti saya cuma kenal satu aja.
Nah mungkin benchmark kita kalau saya lihat, kalau kita mau, terus saya punya passion di arbitrase, ya kan? Dan kalau saya lihat udah saatnya juga, biarpun saya sit di ICC Bu ya, sebagai court member, tapi saya pikir sudah saatnya juga Indonesia menjadi tuan di menjadi master of their own arbitration industry, ya kan? Dan kompetisi kita adalah dengan ICC, ya pasti. Saya melihat terus terang sangat-sangat miris melihat perkara-perkara besar kita semuanya larinya ke ICC. Hukum Indonesia, lawyernya hukum asing, arbiternya orang asing, meriksa hukum Indonesia. Kalau sarjana hukum Indonesia tidak bisa survive di bidangnya sendiri, saya pikir sudah kiamat, malu sebagai sarjana hukum Indonesia. Ya kan? Kalau misalnya bidang disiplin lain seperti kedokteran, di mana itu belajarnya sama, di Indonesia, di luar negeri juga sama, kan? Tapi kalau hukum, yang ngerti hukum Indonesia kan cuma orang Indonesia. Kalau bisa sampai arbiter asing, lawyer asing menguasai hukum, memeriksa hukum Indonesia, saya pikir itu jadi ironis gitu ya. Agak ironis kalau menurut saya ya. Jadi menurut saya benchmarknya harus ke sana, ya kan? Dan satu-satunya kalau mau kita maju untuk arbitrase, ya improve the human resources pertama, kedua integritas. Jangan karena ditunjuk jadi arbiter terus merasa utang budi gitu loh. Ironis gitu loh, you fight for the small money dan you sacrifice your own reputation gitu kan. Jadi menurut saya konyol sekali gitu.
Sebelum break, 1 menit aja saya. Tapi itu to have break.
Ya, wajar lah.
Saya kira sebelum saya lupa Pak, kalau judicial corruption tidak diberantas Pak, ya praktek judicial corruption, suap sogok itu Pak, baik itu maaf oleh hakim maupun pengacara, tidak akan kita bisa jadi negara yang ramah terhadap arbitration. Kita nih dianggap sebagai unfriendly state against arbitration, Mas. Itu aja, Mas.
Inggris, Belanda, Jerman, dan di mana-mana. Tapi legal seat cuma ada 1 dan harus dipilih. Konsekuensinya banyak, itu menentukan hukum arbitrasi yang berlaku. Seperti saya bilang tadi, kalau seatnya di Indonesia, Undang-Undang 399. Legal seatnya di Singapura, Undang-Undang arbitrase di Singapura. Konsekuensi keduanya apa? Konsekuensi kedua menentukan enforceability of the award. Karena putusan arbitrase hanya bisa dieksekusi di negara lain berdasarkan yang namanya New York Convention. New York Convention itu salah satu syaratnya adalah melihat seat of arbitration-nya juga. Kalau misalnya seat of arbitration-nya di North Korea, tentunya nggak bisa dieksekusi di Indonesia karena North Korea bukan party to the New York Convention karena seatnya di North Korea. Tapi kalau seatnya ada di South Korea, bisa dieksekusi di Indonesia karena South Korea party to the New York Convention dan Indonesia party to the New York Convention. Jadi seat itu mempengaruhi banyak hal. Nah, pengaruh ketiga, seat itu juga menentukan pengadilan mana yang punya kewenangan untuk membatalkan. Seatnya di Indonesia, pengadilan Indonesia punya kewenangan membatalkan. seatnya di luar negeri, pengadilan Indonesia nggak punya kewenangan membatalkan. Contoh kasusnya apa? Contoh kasusnya Karabodas lawan Pertamina. Waktu itu seatnya ada di Geneva, dibawa ke pengadilan Indonesia untuk dibatalkan. Awalnya pengadilan Jakarta Pusat bilang, saya batalkan putusan Anda, tapi di Mahkamah Agung dikatakan bahwa pengadilan Indonesia tidak punya kewenangan membatalkan. Dasar hukumnya apa? Dasar hukumnya New York Convention. New York Convention sudah diratifikasi oleh pemerintah Indonesia melalui keputusan presiden. Jadi memang legal seat of arbitration itu punya banyak implikasi, termasuk misalnya bahkan bicara misalnya kalau misalnya ada deadlock soal pembentukan arbiternya, competent authority-nya siapa? Itu juga nanti ada seat-nya itu berlaku juga. Itu juga menentukan. Jadi banyak orang mengatakan bahwa yang paling penting itu apa untuk satu arbitrase? Yang paling penting itu adalah hanya ada dua hal, arbiter dan legal seat. Arbiter akan menunjukkan satu kualitas satu putusan, integritas satu putusan. Legal seat menentukan apa? Legal seat akan menentukan bagaimana satu proses arbitrase itu berjalan. Apakah mudah diobstrak oleh pihak yang tidak senang dengan proses arbitrase itu? Misalnya kalau legal seat-nya di Indonesia, bisa nggak pihak termohon gugat ke pengadilan Indonesia untuk mengganggu proses arbitrase? Nah, dibandingkan misalnya kalau legal seat-nya di Singapura, kalau legal seat karena very friendly arbitrationnya sudah menjadi satu industri, right, dan menghasilkan banyak devisa buat negara. Pengadilan di sana juga ketika menghadapi orang-orang yang mencoba mengganggu proses arbitrase, mereka juga menolak gugatan-gugatan seperti itu. Jadi legal seat itu sangat penting.
Legal seat itu yang dijatuhkannya arbitrase itu.
Legal seat itu biasanya dicantumkan di perjanjian arbitrase. Jadi perjanjian arbitrase itu biasanya mengatakan bahwa seat of arbitration is Indonesia, seat of arbitration di Singapura. Itu suatu klausul arbitrase yang bagus akan mencantumkan seat of arbitration.
Di putusannya juga
akan disebutkan.
Dijatuhkan di mana?
Betul. Seat of arbitration itu pasti selalu disebutkan.
Choice of law, choice of law-nya maksudnya.
Bukan choice of law itu bicara substansi dispute. Jadi kalau kontraknya tunduknya pada hukum apa? Tunduknya pada hukum Inggris misalnya. Seatnya di mana? Seatnya di Indonesia. Jadi bisa hukum arbitrasinya berlaku Undang 399, tapi arbiternya nanti harus memutuskan perkara itu, kontrak itu berdasarkan hukum Inggris. Jadi untuk menentukan uang prestasinya di mana, ya kita lihat uang prestasi berdasarkan hukum Inggris, berdasarkan common law. Force majornya kriterianya apa? Kita lihat berdasarkan hukum common law, hukum Inggris. Jadi memang in a way multi laws, multi jurisdictions.
Draft putusan ICC arbitrase kan harus disetujui sama arbitral court di Spanyol.
Betul.
Itu fungsi dia apa ya? Memeriksa apa itu sebelum di?
Tidak memeriksa substance, tapi memeriksa misalnya
admin,
prosedural. Dan melihat nggak melihat dia nggak mengintervensi suatu substansi perkara.
Nggak boleh itu.
Against apa dia? Memeriksa against apa?
Gimana Pak?
Maksudnya against, jadi memeriksa itu maksudnya dengan peraturan ICC.
Misalnya dilihat ICC rules. Misalnya dilihat yang salah satu dia misalnya ada fair trial nggak di sana. Si termohon diberikan kesempatan untuk menjawab nggak? Keberatan termohon sudah diadres nggak sama tribunal? Karena kalau misalnya kita di pengadilan, saya bisa keberatan A, B, C, D, E, tapi yang diputuskan pengadilan mungkin keberatannya cuma A. Di arbitrase nggak bisa seperti itu. Ingat, arbitrase itu bukan free, Pak ya. It's a service. The parties pay for the arbiter. Mereka punya kewajiban untuk memberikan service yang baik. Jadi nggak free. They are not above you. They are giving service to you. Jadi ketika Bapak protes memberikan keberatan, they have to address your protest. They have to address your complaint. They are not free. You are paying for that. We are paying for that. Jadi mereka tuh harus memberikan service. Jadi jangan melihat arbitrase seolah tuh, wah mereka tuh yang menjatuhkan putusan, kita harus gimana gitu. Enggak. They are the service provider. Seperti Bapak menunjuk lawyer, they are required to give a service to you. Sama seperti arbitration institution, they are required to give a service to you.
Misalnya setuju untuk memperpanjang arbitrasi dari 6 bulan ke 7 bulan. Itu putusannya dari arbiter. Ya, tapi disetujui dulu oleh para pihak dulu. Tapi yang memutuskannya itu bukan para pihak. tapi arbiternya. Ya. Dan misalnya gini, sekarang di Indonesia ini kan eksekutor sudah keluar, tuh juga terus tentang dengan alasan ada perbuatan melawan hukum dan lain-lain. Ditentang bukan 2 kali saja, bisa sampai 3 kali dibuka. Itu sebetulnya menyalahi arbitrasi internasional. Nggak bisa, kalau lex arbitrinya sudah ditentukan kayak tadi di Jenewa, ya memang harus di Jenewa oleh pengadilan Jenewa yang bisa membatalkannya. Nggak bisa pengadilan Indonesia, karena bukan lex arbitrinya proses itu, tetap harus di Jenewa. Jadi salah kaprah sekali ketika pengadilan negeri Jakarta Pusat atau Indonesia yang membatalkan putusan arbiter atau award arbiter di Jenewa itu. Jadi jelas ya itu. Ya.
Dan memilih badan arbitrase itu nggak main-main Pak ya, maksudnya putusan arbiter dengan mandat undang-undang, putusan arbitrase itu seperti pengadilan, seperti putusan pengadilan. Jadi bisa dibayangkan salah memilih arbiter, salah memilih badan arbitrase, seperti Anda memberikan kewenangan yang luar biasa kepada orang yang tidak kompeten. Bisa dibayangkan kan, memberikan satu kewenangan, suatu kepercayaan yang luar biasa kepada orang yang tidak kompeten. Hasilnya kalau tidak kompeten, karena orang yang tidak kompeten, produk yang dikeluarkan kan bisa kacau. Sementara produknya itu oleh mandat undang-undang dikatakan hampir sama persis dengan putusan pengadilan. Jadi nunjuk arbiter, nunjuk lembaga arbitrase itu nggak main-main menurut saya. Tugas kewenangan arbiter bukan main-main juga gitu loh. Karena Anda diberikan mandat sama seperti hakim, sama seperti pengadilan.
Jadi perilaku di Indonesia ini sekarang nih, banyak pengacara yang saya bilang tidak equip ini dengan arbitration. Mereka hanya tahu HIR dan tidak tahu rules-nya ICC maupun yang lain-lain. Itu karena mereka punya anggapan, punya satu akseptasi bahwa putusan pengadilan atau putusan negara itu lebih tinggi daripada putusan arbitrase. Ini adalah salah kaprah yang saya. Padahal ini adalah hak individu, yaitu orang itu sudah partai otonomi, dia sudah memberikan hak penuh kepada para arbiter 3 orang ini yang dipilih oleh mereka, yang sudah dipilih itu untuk memutus, dan mereka sudah janji akan tunduk apapun putusannya gitu, dan tidak bisa dibanding, dikasasi atau digugat lagi. Nah, digugat di sini yang dibatalkan oleh pengadilan ini yang tidak bisa, yang tadi dibilang lex arbitrinya itu di Singapura nggak mungkin dibatalkan oleh pengadilan negeri Indonesia. Begitu. Kalau lagi cukup?
Iya.
My question. Thank you. My name is Daisy from PNR, and my question relates to third-party funding. And I'm interested to know what the speakers think if the possibility is brought in under Indonesian law perspective. I understand that Indonesian law has not addressed many things. It's very simplistic, and it is also silent on this TPF issue. But if there is an arbitration agreement which entitles the parties to seek third-party funders, do you think this kind of agreement would be enforceable from the perspective of Indonesian law? Thank you.
You want to try, Andy?
First, I don't believe in a third-party funding. I don't think it's going to happen in Indonesia.
Right? Oh, you must now tell us why not.
I mean, like any other investor, all sensible investor, when they want to invest their money, they want to get their money back. And to make that calculation is all sensible calculation, is all reasonable calculations. Okay? Now, in Indonesia context, penegakan hukum is always, there's an X factor, right? I don't think sensible investor will want to invest their money in this particular third party funding, right? Tapi kalau third party fundingnya is in respect of the offshore arbitrations, that may be workable. I think that is the opportunity for the Indonesian businessman. If you have a case of offshore arbitrations, and you then have fund to basically to finance your arbitrations, then you can look into the third party funding, right? But careful as well, there is a lot of pitfalls as well, because I'm aware that sometimes this has also become quite a big issue as well in this industry, is that actually when you go to the third party funding and you discuss all your information, it's actually you're giving all your confidential information to someone else, right? And that confidential information can be sold in the market as well. So that's another pitfall actually.
There is even a theory that by doing that, you give up your right to privilege.
Yes.
Which is in Anglo-Saxon context is a real strong right. Privilege means that the other side can't force you to put a document to the other text. Now, if you've already given that document to your third-party funder, the other side is going to say, well, it can't be very confidential because he's given it to someone else. Yeah. So he now should also give it to the arbitral tribunal.
And you can imagine if the third-party funder, they sell your confidential information to the other side.
Yeah, but that would be criminal.
There are ways to address that, like other jurisdictions. So, yeah.
So the future is bleak.
In Indonesia context, I don't think there's no future for the no sensible investor will want to do that. But again, for the offshore arbitrations, I see there is an opportunity.
I would say never say never. Currently, I totally agree with Pak Andri. The climate isn't right. But you know, Indonesia has made so much progress in the last 15 years. Why not in 15 years?
Not in my time. Not in my time.